On Friday, former Vice President Joe Biden addressed an allegation of sexual assault by Tara Reade, a former aide in his Senate office. Here's part of the interview on MSNBC's Morning Joe with the presumptive Democratic nominee.
Would you please go on the record with the American people? Did you sexually assault Tara Reade?
No, it is not true. I'm saying unequivocally, it never happened. And it didn't. It never happened.
Mr. Biden then called on the National Archives to release any documents related to Reade's allegation. When pressed about his papers at the University of Delaware, Biden asserted that his personnel files are, quote, not there. He also declined to discuss Reade's decision to speak out.
You have said in the past that if a woman goes under the lights and talks about something like this, we have to consider that the essence of this is real. Is the essence of what she is saying is real? Why do you think she's doing this?
I'm not going to question her motive. I'm not going to get into that at all. I don't know why she's saying this. I don't know why after 27 years, all of a sudden this gets raised. I don't understand it. But I'm not going to go in and question her motive. I'm not going to attack her. She has a right to say whatever she wants to say. But I have a right to say, look at the facts.
Susan, as a political reporter who has covered VP Biden, what did you learn from this interview and this whole week?
Yeah. You know, I think that the Biden camp decided they had to do something. He hadn't had to respond to this question himself in a television interview yet. I think they thought this was necessary, but not sufficient, that he had to do this. But this story is not over. He's going to have more questions about it. You know, it's a hard we found him being totally unequivocal in his denial that anything happened. But he seemed flummoxed when he was asked about the University of Delaware archives. That's a surprise to me. He didn't have an answer readier for that. And he also struggled, I think, to reconcile what he said during the Brett Kavanaugh hearings with his attitude today. That is something he's going to have to talk about again.
Just before the broadcast, the vice president issued a statement calling on the Secretary of the Senate to ask for a search to be done on any Senate records, but he's still holding tight on his University of Delaware records. Weijia, is that going to become a campaign issue, the Delaware Papers?
Well, I think it's already become an issue because the Trump campaign and surrogates are demanding, you know, as much transparency as possible when it comes to Tara Reade and the vice president, the former vice president. But I think, you know, President Trump himself has a very complicated relationship with allegations of sexual misconduct. We already know that because of his personal experience of being accused by more than a dozen women. But what shocked me, frankly, was when he talked about it last night, because he said that these accusations against Mr. Biden could possibly be false. And so, you know, he talked about how he was falsely accused. He himself brought up Brett Kavanaugh and how he was mistreated. And just today, President Trump said, if I were talking to Joe Biden, I would say go out and fight these claims. It's almost as if they're in the same club of as being accused. And that's going to come back and haunt the president, because every time his campaign tries to make it an issue, they can, the Democrats can point to the president's words to defend Vice President Biden.
Yamiche, I see you want to jump in here.
Yeah, I think the interesting position that President Trump finds himself in is that he can't really go that hard at Joe Biden for this, because we know that more than 24 women have accused President Trump of some form of sexual assault. Now, Kayleigh McEnany, the White House press secretary today, said that this is all 4 years old, and that people that was already decided when people decided to elect President Trump. But she was wrong on the facts there. This is not 4 years old. Just last year, we had E. Jean Carroll come out, and just this year, she was trying to seek the president's DNA in January 2020 for a lawsuit related to the sexual assault allegations that she's making against the president. So I think this is going to be a tough spot. The president obviously has surrogates that want to attack Joe Biden using this Tara Reade allegations. And Joe Biden, as Susan said, is going to have to continue to answer these questions, because there is going to continue to be more and new reporting about who was in the office, what kind of atmosphere that was, these pictures of Joe Biden hugging women and touching women in ways that some said made them feel uncomfortable, others who said that they thought it was just him being friendly. Those pictures are going to continue to circulate. So I think Joe Biden has a long road ahead of him when it comes to this. But again, President Trump is not going to be able to, I think, hit him as hard as he might want to or as hard as the campaign wants to.
Phil, speaking of that long road ahead, Yamiche just mentioned, you and I, we've been on the campaign trail many years together, talking to top Democrats. They're an important constituency for the former vice president, Speaker Pelosi, top strategists, party officials. How are they responding, perhaps even privately, to you today as they watch all of this unfold?
Well, Bob, it's clearly not a story that any top Democrat would want to be in the news right now or want to be talking about. That said, they have arrayed behind Vice President Biden. He has had the support of Speaker Pelosi and of other prominent women and men in the Democratic Party in the past couple of days. There did seem to be a private sort of groundswell of urging that Biden get out there and rip this Band-Aid off and talk about it. He, for days and days, was avoiding media interviews and wasn't putting himself out there where he could be questioned about these allegations in detail the way he was this morning by Mika Brzezinski on Morning Joe. And so I suspect we're going to see, a lot of top Democrats rally around the vice president and take him at his word and also point to his record. He was in the Senate for many, many years, and in addition to that, 8 years as the vice president, and he has a governing record on things that he has done to support women, the Violence Against Women Act, and we hear his supporters mention that again and again, and I imagine that's going to be part of the strategy going forward.
Susan, just in the final minute here, as much as the vice president's supporters believe he can carry on and that he's going to be able to move on his campaign from this difficult issue, an allegation of sexual assault, this is a Me Too moment in America, not just in American politics. How does that change the campaign in the coming weeks and months?
I think here's one irony. Donald Trump helped create this landscape that is creating all these problems for Joe Biden, the Me Too movement, the opposition to his Access Hollywood tape, and some of his behavior in the past. And fairly or not, these accusations hurt Joe Biden more than they hurt Donald Trump, because Joe Biden's brand is that he's empathetic and he's ethical and he's a nice guy in a way that is not really Donald Trump's political brand.
We could talk all night, but that's all the time we have for the moment. Thank you to our reporters, Yamiche, Alcindor, Weijia, Jiang, Susan Page, and Phil Rucker.